everyone, welcome back. Today's topic is a good one, and it's a topic that I have been thinking about for quite some time, and a topic that comes up a lot in conversation at different milongas and in different classes, and that is technique for wearing heels and technique for feet in general when it comes to tango. How to undo some of the damage that we do to our feet when we dance it, how to prevent injuries. So it's a bit of a Pandora's box in terms of the possibilities of discussion on this topic. So I'm just going to pick a couple of things to address today. We're mainly going to look at two things that you can do to both undo some of the kind of chronic pain or discomfort that you might have in your feet from wearing heels and dancing too much. That's definitely common. And then the second thing is I'm going to show you some exercises specifically for the feet that will kind of bring more awareness to the feet, which is really important. We tend to kind of not be connected with the feet the same way we are perhaps with our hands, but the feet are super important. Secondly, strengthening the muscles of the feet, understanding like what muscles in the feet you have at your disposal and how to use them. And then understanding really the range of motion in the foot and what is the foot really supposed to do when you're walking. So we're going to do some exercises both for kind of more therapeutic approach and then more for strengthening and bringing awareness to the actual mechanic of the foot. Before we get started, I just want to say from my own personal journey, I've recently, I guess for the last maybe 6 months, I've decided to just dance in flats, and I have to say I have never felt better. So I feel that after 10 years of dancing tango and thinking about wearing heels and how to wear heels and what's the proper mechanic for wearing heels and having lots of injuries with my feet, my time in Buenos Aires, I have had really strange things with the feet, inflammation of different joints and fascia tissue and corns and swelling and all of these things that tango does to our feet. I've done it all, I've had it all happen to me, and I eventually arrived at the conclusion that for me, for my dance, for my satisfaction, really dancing in heels actually limits my capacity, because what I'm interested in as a dancer is my range of expression, my capacity to feel the music, my endurance as a dancer. I want to be able to dance for a long time, and I want to be able to dance with lots of different people. So for example, once I really started allowing myself to dance in flats, I found that I do enjoy dancing with people shorter than me, which is before was much harder for me because I'm taller, and in heels a lot of time I would feel like I'm struggling to kind of reconcile my geometry. So the other thing that's happened is that I can actually dance for many more hours without getting fatigued. I also found that I don't have the same aches and pains in my body, my lower back. Even my neck and shoulders, I feel, are feeling better once I started mostly dancing in flats. And really, my range of motion, to me, it all comes back to my ability to hold my axis and my range of motion. It's no matter how you turn it, heels are amazing. They look so beautiful. I love watching tango danced in heels for women. It looks beautiful. However, fact is, it's harder. It's harder to dance in heels, it's harder to move, it's harder to feel your balance. So, as good as you might become, as good as your technique might be, still, it's harder than being on the ground, allowing your foot to feel the ground fully. So it's harder than that. And therefore, I've noticed for myself that when I dance if I'm dancing in heels, some portion of my awareness and attention and effort is focused in my body in holding myself upright, in reconciling the challenge of being in heels. So I lose range of motion for me. And so I also feel that a lot of times it depends on the style of dance that you're dancing. I know that in heels it's easier to dance very close embrace when the movements are much smaller and you're dealing with a very small structure. So if you're in a close embrace in a crowded milonga, dancing in heels is a very different experience than if you're dancing that's something very expansive, with very nuevo, open embrace, lots of saccadas, lots of ganchos, boleos. In that case, when I'm supposed to be moving much bigger and the range of motion is supposed to be much more articulated and the pivots are much more deep, then in that case, for me, the heels are just harder, and I prefer dancing in flats. Now, I have to say, dancing in flats creates other questions, other challenges, but I just wanted to put it out there as a suggestion that if you want to dance in heels, great. But if you don't know if you want to dance in heels, just know you don't have to. You really can, I believe, dance in flats. You don't have to be high on your toes to dance tango. I feel that it's totally possible to have a very beautiful, satisfying dance without having to wear heels. And the proof of that really is out there. You can see some amazing performances by people who are dancing in flats, and it's great. So, my personal opinions aside, I want to give you something to work with. The first thing I wanted to show you is this amazing ball. This is called the Franklin ball, and this is really a magical object that I was introduced to a few years ago. And this little guy, you can get it on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. So what this is good for is, first of all, just rolling the foot. So this is something that I bring with me when I go to a tango festival or a long night at the milonga. And what I'm really using it for is to really spread the foot and spread the arch. And then what's nice about this this little ball is that you really can allow yourself to go to different sides of it and feel the different dimensions of the ball of your foot, right? So first, if I put it on the inside of the arch, I will feel the inner, kind of the inner space of the foot. I can press on the outside. I can then stretch my toes. And then one of my favorite ones, this one is really fantastic, is if you really spread your toes across the top of the ball and then you try to grab the ball and lift it. So this is something that's really good. So these are more therapeutic things. Sometimes I work with a harder ball, but either way, your whole point here, what you're trying to do is to kind of undo what the heels were doing. So you're trying to spread the foot, spread the spaces between the toes and things like that, okay? So this is a great tool to have for relaxing your feet, for undoing some of the tension. If you've had injuries in your feet, this is a really good thing to do as often as you possibly can. And then the other thing I was going to show you are exercises more for strengthening the foot or for bringing more power and articulation to the foot. So one very easy one is just to train yourself as if you're going to jump. So if I were to jump, you see my toes point at the top of the jump. And so we're training that reflex to push off the ground. And so if you're just starting tango, especially, might be something very unusual, but it's a very nice exercise to feel these muscles fire, to feel the springiness of the foot. So this is something that I encourage you to do before, at the milonga, before you put your shoes on, okay? And then there's some really nice exercises for strengthening the arch itself. So this one's really fun. So I have a little piece of paper towel here. So what you do is you spread your toes across the paper towel, and then you pick the paper towel up with your toes and you really scrunch it up. So here I'm really articulating that, like I'm grabbing it, and you should feel a lifting in the arch. So you do that a few times, just kind of get used to that action, and then you do it with the other foot, okay? So it feels kind of weird. One of the things that happens with heels too is that the toes get scrunched, right? And so what you're trying to do here is first spread the toes and then bring them in. So you're really rediscovering that range of motion, so really spreading it out. So when I think about it, walking in shoes or heels, it's like you're binding the foot, you're limiting the range of motion that the foot has. And so these exercises are meant to get you in touch back with that range of motion. So once you've trained that action, you can play with this really interesting movement. I'm going to pretend that I'm standing on grass, and I'm going to pull myself through the grass with my foot. So here I scrunch up my toes and I pull my foot forward. I scrunch up and pull forward, scrunch and pull forward. And eventually you're kind of walking in this really weird way, as if you're being pulled forward by the feet. So this is an interesting challenge. Now once you've mastered that challenge, try to reverse it. So now I'm going to first curl my toes, bring them in, and then push my foot back. Bring my toes in, round the arch of the foot, and then push back, and then you go backwards. And it's as if you're trying to push yourself back with your feet. Okay, so this is one of the best exercises to develop the awareness of the arch and the muscles that we use when we walk, right? And so the last little motion that I want to show you is just to imagine that you're going to play scales with your toes. And so the easier version of this is to go from outside in. So you can work one foot at a time. You bring the foot onto the outer edge, and then pinky toe, and then next toe, and then big toe. So you're trying to bring the foot back down one toe at a time. So try it on both feet. You might notice, if you've never done anything like that, you might have no articulation between toes. If that's the case, then this is especially good for you. Like, you should be doing this like in the car, when you brush your teeth. Just do that to kind of regain some of that malleability in the foot. So these couple of things for you to consider: a ball to use to stretch the foot. The foot, you want to kind of undo the angle of the shoe. Okay. The last couple of thoughts that I would like to offer up is, first of all, whether you wear heels or not, for your technique, I definitely recommend that you first study the pose, the shape that you're doing without heels, and find the mechanic in that way first. So if I'm training an alignment for boleo, or if I'm trying to figure out alignment for forward step or something, I first want to find it without heels, because that's when my body has the most ability to be relaxed, and my alignment will be truer, because I'm more grounded. You know, it's easier, right? So first find it in that. Wear socks if you're pivoting. So work with whatever you're working with. First do it without heels, and then when you do put heels on, I usually think to myself, okay, recreate the feeling of stability that you had without heels. So this is just kind of a mantra that I repeat to myself. My goal is to make it feel as easy as it was when I was not wearing heels. So I try to focus my attention on recreating that alignment. It's much easier to do that than if you're training a new mechanic or a movement that's very difficult. You're training it in heels. You don't know, where the alignment is falling apart because so much of the energy is spent just trying to balance, and it creates a lot of tension. The last thing I want to say is that, again, whether you're dancing in heels or not, one of the most important things I found for myself, the thing that really improved both my balance, my alignment, my technique, my longevity, is really understanding that the foot wants to move through the full range of motion. We have a really amazing, expressive possibility with the feet. There's all these ways that the foot can articulate. So when you walk, normally without heels or with heels, I always think about walking and following through the foot the whole way before stepping forward. So really training in yourself that feeling that before you collect, your foot has articulated fully. It's really reached its full motion, full expressive power before it collects. Whether I'm walking forward or back, so if I'm walking back, I'm really going to push off the foot and train myself to feel that, to feel like, sometimes I think my feet are like eardrums. Deaf musicians talk about how they walk without shoes so they can feel the vibration from the ground, and that's how they hear the music. So I think of that just the same way, is that my feet are the ones that are really kind of receiving the energy from the ground, and I want my feet to be kind of like as broad, as wide, as receptive as possible. And I want to use all of the range of motion so that no part of the foot is overused. So that's kind of on my mind always when I dance. And just play with these ideas and see where that takes you. I think that there's lots of other ways that you can kind of address these issues, but this is kind of a start to think about these things. So I hope that was helpful, and we'll continue next week. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.